we've talked about this before. You have to be oh so delicate when pocket screwing this soft plywood. We'll screw through the ends, we'll drill and countersink and then put screws in, because these will pull right through if you're not careful. It's about as good as I get. It's already starting to split. Okay, and then we'll just drill, pre-drill, and put a couple staples in the top edge up there to hold it, and let the glue dry. And I think we're done for today. A few minutes, I built this piece and I mismeasured and forgot that I built the first piece with a 3/4 top and bottom and the other piece with an open bottom. So when I looked at my measurements, I added 3/4 of an inch to the overall length of this, and they're all going to need to fit together, so I got to fix my mistake. Into the closet, I didn't want to have an 8-inch area that you can't see what's behind it. It kind of, to me, is an out of sight, out of mind type of thing. So to get around that, I decided I would put a knockout in it for my youngest daughter, so that when she stands here and looks, she can still see what's behind the shoe rack and that may be, or shelving, however she chooses to use the space. She'll still have an idea of what's in these tucked in areas. All of it is faced. I gotta sand off some of my wood filler here that covers up my fasteners, and then get going on putting a finishing coat of lacquer to make kind of a rustic looking wood appearance. All right, shelves are done. All of the facing that hides the wood grain end of the plywood, I take the worst 2x4s that we have laying around that are twisted, and I run them down the table saw, and I make pieces of trim to hide this end grain. So that is our finished shelves. I just have to do this last one. And it's time to sand and lacquer. We got the paint shop crew going. What have you guys discovered about using lacquer?
It smells horrible. Makes your lungs hurt.
Burns your eyes.
Your eyes burn.
Yeah. This is apparently what goes on when I'm not in here. Fat dog on the bed. Not okay. Alright, this closet is completely unpacked. And this is our starting point. So this is a 65-year-old closet. And it is just a hodgepodge, always has been, because the layout of it is not really all that workable. It's about 46 inches deep and 42.5 inches wide. So it's basically a square. When we did the housing project, this was one of 2 rooms that was left untouched. And when we put the new hip roof on, this was open to the weather. And we had a little bit of water damage in here that once we got going on the rest of the house, I really just kind of forgot about it. It was out of sight, out of mind. We've had I don't know how many iterations of closet over 65 years. All right, it's always fun to see how things were made. There's a whole bunch of pieces of rough sawn wood just leaning up in here. Had the old cast iron vent going up. These walls are 8 inches thick. Can't say I've ever seen that one before. And this whole old part of the house, the original, was milled on the property. So you've got, instead of 2x4s like you're used to getting, you've got actual 2-inch by 4-inch. So the other thing I have always wanted to know, so I popped a piece of this drywall out, and this old insulation that's in here, it does not feel very thick. It's almost non-existent. So that's another reason why I wanted to pull this all out, is just to get a look at the exterior and re-insulate it, because down here when I pulled the trim out, there's a little bit of mildew. So I'm going to get this redone with new insulation, thicker insulation, and some cedar.
Drill a hole in the ceiling right now.
Yeah, we got to put a hole up through so we can do what?
We can get a new outlet in here so that I can actually have a light switch instead of just pulling this.
You're gonna have an outlet and a switch, right?
Yeah. So we'll have Dad go crawl through the attic and then feed wires through so that we can start with the outlet. Start on the outlet.
Okay.
So we just installed a light.
What's this wee stuff?
You.
Okay, so we added an outlet
Yeah.
and we switched the light. We can't take that down up there because if we do, all of the insulation will fall in on us. So we're going to leave that in place and then insulate and resheet the walls with cedar. So, yeah, I gotta get.
I'm gonna pull it out of it. Just a bit. So Dad's currently stuck behind the wood.
Okay, push.
Everything just barely fits.
So here's the problem. This should have gone in last.
So pull it back up.
Landscape.
Why am I what?
Not filming a landscape.
Over.
Uh-oh.
Like like that.
So I'll bet you pause.
I'm not filming at landscape.
And tip it towards me. Keep tipping. Okay, let's start feeding it in. Keep going. All right. Now I have those clamps.
Emma's camera side.
We got to trim out all of our gaps and seams, but this is how it's going to fit. Here's the shelving unit. One across the top for larger storage. The double hanging one here, and then the long hanging with a couple of cubbies.
So right now we have the overall of the cabinets done, but we noticed to the side here that the shelving wasn't lining up all the way onto the side.
Right.
So we're gonna take a piece of wood to kind of cover it and make it look neater.
How did we do this? Because this is a beveled piece of wood, right?
Yeah.
So what did we do? How do we make this? We took a full piece of 1/4 inch and we ran a line down the inside and scribed it.
Yeah.
And then I freehanded it on the table saw to cut the taper into it so that it covers up the gap, because the gap is there. Why?
I'm not
Do you
sure.
remember?
No, I do not.
Okay, the old part of the house, things aren't really plumb and square
That's
anymore.
right.
And then the other thing too is the old part of the house was made from lumber milled on the property.
Because wasn't this one of like I know the room that I'm in now was one of the original rooms.
This is part of the original house, yeah.
Yeah.
So things aren't really lining up,
Ooh.
the corners and stuff, because things are out of square. So to make this look correct, we're gonna put this tapered piece in. So let's tack it in place and then we can do a walkthrough of your final finished closet, all right?
All right.
It's a really confined space. This is what we did in order to maximize a small space. So this is our final. She can put these shelves wherever she likes.
Mm-hmm.
What was important to you was your shoe storage.
Yeah.
That's adjustable down there, right?
Yeah.
You can make that as big or as small as you want. How high will that shelf go? Look at your peg holes.
It can go all the way up to here.
Yeah. So if you wanted to
Okay.
use that for a short hanging space and stand stuff in there, you can do that, because you can put the shelf the same height as your other hanging spot here.
Yeah.
As you grow and change and your needs change, you can adjust that as you want. Okay.
So then up here we have 60 inches worth of hang space, top and bottom.
Yeah.
So it can basically be separated as however you want.